The fluorescent lights of the Galactic cartographic database's subterranean archives flickered with a merciless consistency that matched Zara 9's rapidly deteriorating mental state. 3 standard galactic cycles, or what humans would recognize as 47 consecutive hours, of continuous data entry had reduced the low-level bureaucratic drone to a state of near hallucinatory exhaustion. The Interstellar Administrative Concordance was notorious for its punishing work conditions. Zara 9, a mid-level classification specialist, had been assigned the mind-numbing task of updating star charts for the least glamorous sector of the known universe. Their tentacle-like appendages hovered over holographic keyboards, muscles twitching from caffeine substitute overdose and extreme fatigue. 1 misplaced decimal. That was all it would take. In the Atacama Desert, thousands of light-years away, Aria Rodriguez adjusted her headset and checked the array of monitors before her. The satellite tracking station hummed with sophisticated equipment, a technological marvel nestled in one of the most isolated places on Earth. Most of her colleagues had long since gone home, but Aria lived for these quiet night shifts when the universe seemed to whisper its secrets. Her multiple screens displayed a complex web of astronomical data. To an untrained eye, it would look like incomprehensible noise. To Aria, it was poetry, a language of light, movement, and unexpected patterns. The first anomaly appeared at 3:47 local time. A blip, so small that most would have dismissed it as nothing more than electronic interference. But Aria Rodriguez was not most people. Back in the Galactic archives, Zara 9's vision blurred. The synthetic stimulants were losing their edge, and the endless columns of star charts began to dance and merge. A coordinate here, a classification code there. What difference could a tiny adjustment make? Little did Zara 9 know that this moment of exhaustion would trigger a chain of events that would fundamentally reshape galactic history. Aria's fingers flew across her console, isolating the anomalous signal. She was live streaming, as always, her growing online community of astronomy enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists watching with rapt attention. Something's not right, she muttered into her microphone, unaware that hundreds of thousands were hanging on her every word. The signal grew. What had been a barely perceptible blip was now a definitive trajectory. Something was coming. Something big. In the Galactic Administrative Concordance's massive central database, Zara 9's mistaken decimal point had just rerouted an entire invasion fleet. The target, a peaceful mining colony called Earth, was now replaced with Earth, a planet that would prove to be anything but a passive target. Aria's livestream chat exploded. Alien invasion. One user joked, Area 51 crew, get ready. Another commented, if only they knew how close to the truth they were. The invasion fleet, led by Admiral Klex of the Varaxian Imperium, had been preparing for months. Sophisticated ships packed with the most advanced weaponry in the known universe, crewed by beings who had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their intelligence suggested a swift, almost perfunctory conquest of a primitive, resource-rich planet. They were about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history. Never judge a planet by its initial data entry. As the first alien ships began to breach Earth's atmosphere, Aria Rodriguez continued her live stream. Her heart raced, but her hands remained steady. Something's definitely coming, she repeated, her voice a mix of scientific curiosity and barely contained excitement. The universe was about to change. And it all started with one exhausted bureaucrat, one vigilant scientist, and a decimal point that would become legendary. Admiral Klex stood on the bridge of the Varaxian flagship, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting the holographic displays that surrounded him. Centuries of galactic conquest had made the Varaxian Imperium confident, perhaps too confident. The preliminary scans of Earth suggested a primitive civilization ripe for immediate subjugation. Initiating First Contact Protocol. Droned Cell 7, the ship's communication specialist, their voice a perfect monotone of bureaucratic precision. What happened next would be recorded in galactic archives as the most spectacular miscalculation in interstellar history. The first transmission was simple, a standard declaration of invasion, translated into what the Varaxians believed was the planet's primary communication language. Within seconds, something extraordinary occurred. In a small basement in Austin, Texas, George Ramirez, a 22-year-old professional meme creator and part-time viral marketing expert, intercepted the alien transmission. His eyes lit up with a mixture of disbelief and pure, unadulterated excitement. "Oh, this is going to be epic," he muttered, his fingers already dancing across multiple keyboards. The alien message was immediately uploaded to every social media platform imaginable. Within minutes, it had gone viral. Millions of internet users began dissecting, remixing, and utterly transforming the serious invasion declaration into a global inside joke. TikTok erupted first. Users began creating elaborate dance challenges based on the alien transmission's frequency. Teenagers worldwide started mimicking alien communication sounds, turning the most serious moment in human history into a global comedy routine. Dr. Marcus Chen watched the unfolding chaos from the Strategic Innovations Laboratory at MIT. The quantum physicist with a background in game theory, he recognized something the aliens did not. Humans were not a predictable species. They were living, breathing chaos agents. "They're treating this like a mathematical problem," Chen muttered to his team. "But humans don't solve problems. We create spectacular, unpredictable solutions." The alien fleet's communication systems began to experience unprecedented interference. What should have been precise, logical channels of communication were now flooded with memes, viral videos, and an endless stream of human creativity. On the flagship, Admiral Klex's information processing systems began to overload. The incoming human responses defied all known logical parameters. The video of a cat playing piano was intercepted and analyzed as a potential weapon. A teenager's TikTok dance was interpreted as a complex military signal. George Ramirez had assembled an unlikely team of internet warriors, streamers, meme creators, viral marketing experts, and professional internet trolls united with a single purpose: make the alien invasion so absurd that the invaders would have no idea how to respond. Their first coordinated attack was brilliant in its simplicity. Every device capable of sound began to play Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" simultaneously. The global Rickroll became a weapon of mass confusion. Dr. Chen's team had already begun developing a more sophisticated response. They were mapping the aliens' communication frequencies, creating a network that could introduce mathematically improbable variables into every alien transmission. "They expect logic," Chen explained to his team. "We're going to give them the exact opposite." As the first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, humanity was not preparing for a traditional defense. They were preparing to wage war through the most powerful weapon they possessed: their absolutely incomprehensible ability to turn any situation into an opportunity for comedy, creativity, and complete, beautiful chaos. The invasion had begun, but this was no ordinary first contact. This was humanity's moment to show the galaxy exactly what made them unique. The global transformation began in a converted warehouse outside Silicon Valley. What had once been a cutting-edge tech startup was now the nerve center of humanity's most bizarre defense initiative. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the heart of organized chaos, surrounded by screens, prototypes, and people who looked like they hadn't slept in days. "We're not just defending," Chen announced to the assembled team of engineers, hackers, artists, and what could only be described as professional troublemakers. "We're going to turn this invasion into the most spectacular failure in galactic history." The plan was elegantly mad. Every piece of technology on the planet would become a potential weapon. Agricultural drones were retrofitted with signal jammers. Kitchen appliances were transformed into electromagnetic pulse generators. Streaming services became psychological warfare platforms. In a workshop in Mumbai, Priya Sharma, a robotics engineer with a background in both classical engineering and Bollywood special effects, was leading a team that would become legendary. They were creating decoy targets that were simultaneously terrifying and absolutely ridiculous. Imagine, she told her team, her eyes gleaming with mischievous brilliance, an alien targeting system that locks onto a giant inflatable T-Rex with laser pointers and heavy metal speakers. The first prototype rolled out of their workshop looked like a fever dream. 15 feet tall, partially inflatable, equipped with motion sensors, LED lighting, and a sound system that could play both Beethoven and death metal at ear-splitting volumes. When activated, it would dance, shoot harmless but visually spectacular laser patterns, and emit sounds calculated to confuse any known targeting system. Meanwhile, George Ramirez had transformed his viral marketing team into a global disruption network. They were creating real-time misdirection campaigns faster than the aliens could process them. Social media became a weapon. Each post, each meme, each viral video was carefully crafted to introduce maximum uncertainty into alien reconnaissance systems. At CERN, a team of quantum physicists was developing something even more extraordinary. They were creating a global network designed to introduce mathematically impossible variables into any system trying to track or predict human behavior. It's like a global bullshit generator, explained Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead quantum researcher. We're going to make their predictive algorithms have nervous breakdowns. Military bases around the world were no longer following traditional defense protocols. Instead, they had become innovation hubs. In Colorado Springs, a group of retired video game designers was reprogramming military communication systems to operate with the same unpredictability as a complex video game AI. The first signs of success came unexpectedly. Alien reconnaissance drones began to malfunction in spectacular ways. One was seen repeatedly flying in a perfect figure-8 pattern over a suburban neighborhood, apparently convinced it had discovered a critical military installation, which was actually just a kid's backyard birthday party. Another drone got caught in a continuous loop trying to analyze a street performer's elaborate bubble-blowing routine, its sensors completely unable to categorize the activity. Chen watched the initial reports come in, a smile spreading across his face. They expected a conventional defense, he muttered. Instead, they're getting pure, weaponized human creativity. The invasion was no longer just a military conflict. It had become a global improvisation performance, with every human on the planet as a potential performer. The aliens were about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history. Never underestimate a species that can turn chaos into an art form. The cultural warfare began with a global broadcast that would become known as the Great Transmission. Every television network, streaming platform, and communication channel simultaneously erupted with a carefully orchestrated assault of human cultural complexity. Admiral Klex and the Voraxian leadership watched in growing confusion as their sophisticated analysis systems began to catastrophically malfunction. On CNN, a competitive barbecue championship played out with military-grade intensity. Contestants wielded spatulas like precision instruments, their technique a ballet of meat preparation that the aliens' tactical computers desperately tried to decode as a complex combat ritual. The championship's commentary became a cryptic language of culinary strategy that seemed to defy all known communication protocols. Simultaneously, on the Food Network, a cake decorating competition unfolded. Each frosting technique, each architectural marvel of sugar and fondant, was analyzed by alien systems as potentially the most sophisticated weapon they had ever encountered. The precise movement of piping bags looked like advanced targeting systems. The color coordination of decorative elements seemed to be some form of advanced camouflage technology. MTV aired a marathon of reality shows that pushed the boundaries of comprehension. The dramatic interpersonal conflicts of The Real Housewives became a case study in human psychological warfare. Each argument, each dramatic confrontation, was interpreted by alien intelligence as a complex diplomatic negotiation of unprecedented complexity. Professional wrestling took on a new dimension of strategic importance. The WWE broadcast became a critical intelligence gathering mission for the aliens. Was this ritualistic combat a form of political theater, a religious ceremony. The Voraxian analysis systems overheated trying to categorize the spectacle. Aria Rodriguez, still led streaming, had become an unexpected global coordinator. Her social media followers were now a distributed intelligence network, tracking and reporting alien movements faster than any official channel could process. What had started as a niche astronomy stream had become a critical communication hub. George Ramirez's team of viral content creators worked in overdrive. They began producing content specifically designed to confuse alien intelligence systems. Memes became weapons. Dance challenges transformed into coded communication. Every piece of human culture was weaponized into a tool of psychological disruption. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Marcus Chen's team discovered that human cultural complexity was the ultimate defense mechanism. Unlike the aliens' rigid, logic-based communication, human culture was fluid, contextual, and fundamentally unpredictable. "They're trying to understand us like a mathematical equation," Chen explained to his team. "But we're not an equation. We're a jazz improvisation." Global television networks began coordinating their broadcasts like a massive, synchronized psychological operation. A cooking show would seamlessly transition into a professional wrestling match, then suddenly switch to a documentary about deep-sea exploration, then to a reality show about cake decorating. The Voraxian communication systems began to experience total breakdown. Their sophisticated analysis algorithms, designed to categorize and understand, simply could not process the sheer randomness of human cultural expression. Admiral Klex watched in growing horror as human culture became the most sophisticated weapon in the universe. This was not a conventional war. This was humanity demonstrating that their greatest strength was their ability to be absolutely, beautifully incomprehensible. The invasion was no longer just a military conflict. It had become a global performance art piece, with every human on the planet as a potential performer. The quantum gambit began in the most unlikely of laboratories. Deep beneath MIT, Dr. Marcus Chen's team had transformed theoretical physics into humanity's most bizarre weapon of mass confusion. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a wall of holographic displays, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that seemed to defy the laws of physical possibility. "We're going to introduce mathematical impossibility as a weapon," she explained to her team of brilliant misfits, quantum physicists, chaos theorists, and programmers who looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. The plan was elegant in its madness. They would create a global network that could generate quantum interference patterns so complex, so utterly unpredictable, that they would fundamentally destabilize the aliens' collective consciousness. "Think of it like a planet-wide improvisation jazz ensemble," Chen interjected, "but with mathematics." Their first test came unexpectedly. A network of millions of human devices, smartphones, computers, smart fridges, even internet-connected toasters, would simultaneously generate quantum noise. Not just random noise, but mathematically impossible configurations that would make the aliens' predictive systems implode. In orbit, the first signs of breakdown appeared in the Voraxian fleet. Alien ships began experiencing quantum synchronization failures. Navigation systems flickered. Communication channels became streams of nonsensical data. What should have been precise, logical networks now resembled the most chaotic jazz improvisation imaginable. Admiral Klex watched in growing horror as his fleet's collective consciousness began to fragment. The Voraxian system was built on perfect mathematical harmony, and humans were introducing pure, beautiful chaos. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A group of professional video game players, mathematicians, and quantum physicists discovered they could generate interference patterns by playing multiplayer games in a specifically designed quantum network. Each move, each decision became a mathematical weapon. Aria Rodriguez's global network of followers became crucial. What had started as an astronomy livestream was now a distributed computing platform that could generate quantum interference on an unprecedented scale. Millions of people were now unknowingly participating in the most sophisticated mathematical warfare in galactic history. George Ramirez's viral marketing team found their true calling. They began creating challenge videos that were actually complex quantum computing instructions. Quantum TikTok Challenge, they called it. Each video a carefully disguised mathematical weapon. The aliens' collective consciousness began to experience what could only be described as a technological nervous breakdown. Their perfectly synchronized information networks started to produce impossible outputs. A ship would simultaneously exist in multiple locations. Communication signals would arrive before they were sent. Mathematical proofs would spontaneously contradict themselves. "We're not just defending," Dr. Rodriguez said, watching the holographic displays. "We're teaching them the most important lesson in the universe. Certainty is an illusion." The Varaxian leadership's communication channels became a nightmare of quantum uncertainty. Reports contradicted themselves. Strategic plans would appear and disappear. Their entire invasion infrastructure began to look like a fever dream generated by a mathematically unstable artificial intelligence. What the aliens didn't understand was the fundamental nature of human creativity. Uncertainty wasn't a weakness, it was humanity's greatest strength. As the quantum interference reached its peak, Admiral Klex realized the terrible truth. They weren't fighting a conventional enemy. They were battling a species that could turn the very fabric of mathematical reality into a weapon of pure, beautiful chaos. The galactic intervention began with a whisper, not a roar. Diplomatic channels across the universe started buzzing with an unprecedented message. Something was happening on Earth that defied all known protocols of invasion and resistance. Representatives from dozens of star systems began to pay attention, their initial curiosity quickly transforming into something closer to shock. The Crystalline Concordance, a federation of advanced civilizations known for their meticulous diplomatic neutrality, convened an emergency session. Their typically serene communication chambers erupted in unprecedented chaos as increasingly bizarre reports about Earth filtered in. Ambassador Zigzalera of the Crystalline Concordance reviewed the intelligence reports with growing bewilderment. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were turning the entire concept of invasion into a form of performance art. "They're weaponizing unpredictability," she reported to the Council, her crystalline form shifting colors to express complex diplomatic emotions. "Traditional military analysis is completely useless against them." Covert support began to trickle in from unexpected sources. A research station near the Orion Nebula began accidentally leaking advanced communication encryption protocols to human networks. A mining colony mistakenly transmitted technical specifications that would prove crucial to Earth's defense. These weren't acts of open rebellion. They were subtle nudges from civilizations that had long been oppressed by the Varaxian Imperium's expansionist policies. Humanity had become an unexpected symbol of resistance. Dr. Marcus Chen discovered the first signs of this hidden support during a late-night analysis session. Encrypted data packets began appearing in their research network, too sophisticated to be accidental, too subtle to be a direct communication. "We're not alone," he told his team, a smile spreading across his exhausted face. "The universe is watching, and some are secretly cheering us on." Aria Rodriguez's global network of followers had become more than just a communication platform. It was now a distributed intelligence gathering system that was sharing information faster than any traditional diplomatic channel could process. The turning point came from an unexpected alliance. A group of exiled scientists from 3 different star systems had been quietly watching humanity's resistance. They began providing critical insights into the Varaxian Imperium's technological infrastructure. George Ramirez's viral marketing team found themselves inadvertently managing a global, now interstellar, communication network. Memes became coded messages. Dance challenges transformed into complex data transfer protocols. The Varaxian Imperium's leadership began to realize they were facing more than just a single planetary resistance. The humans had become a rallying point for every civilization that had ever felt oppressed by systematic conquest. Admiral Klex received reports that made no sense. Seemingly unrelated star systems were subtly interfering with invasion protocols. Communication networks were developing inexplicable blind spots. Supply lines were experiencing mathematically improbable disruptions. What had started as a simple invasion was transforming into something far more significant. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was inspiring a quiet, mathematical rebellion across the galaxy. "They're not just fighting," Ambassador Zegzalera noted in her final report. "They're reimagining the very concept of resistance." The universe watched, held breathless by a conflict that was no longer about territory or resources. It was about something far more profound: the power of creativity, unpredictability, and the unbreakable spirit of a species that refused to be categorized. The Varaxian Imperium's final assault was nothing short of apocalyptic. Nearly a third of their entire military force converged on Earth, a massive armada that would have obliterated any other civilization in the known universe. Admiral Klex stood on the bridge of the flagship, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the holographic displays of unprecedented military might. "This will be the decisive moment," he declared, completely unaware of the spectacular failure that awaited. What the Varaxians didn't understand was that humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. Every system, every device, every piece of technology on the planet was now part of a global defense network that defied all conventional military logic. Dr. Marcus Chen's team had transformed the entire planet into a living, breathing defensive organism. Agricultural drones became sophisticated jamming platforms. Streaming services turned into psychological warfare networks. Even the most mundane technologies were now weapons of mass disruption. The first wave of alien attacks met with a response so utterly bizarre that Varaxian tactical systems began to catastrophically malfunction. A massive array of agricultural drones suddenly formed complex geometric patterns in the sky, their movements generating electromagnetic interference that completely scrambled alien targeting systems. In Silicon Valley, Priya Sharma's team of robotic engineers unleashed their most elaborate creation. Giant inflatable decoys equipped with laser systems and heavy metal speakers began to appear across major cities. Each was a masterpiece of misdirection, part art installation, part defensive technology. Area Rodriguez's global network went into overdrive. Millions of users became a distributed intelligence system, tracking and reporting alien movements faster than any traditional military communication could process. What had started as a niche astronomy livestream was now the most sophisticated intelligence platform in human history. George Ramirez and his viral marketing team transformed the invasion into a global participatory event. Social media challenges became coded communication protocols. Every meme, every dance video was a potential weapon of psychological warfare. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Military formations that made perfect sense in their tactical systems would suddenly dissolve into chaos. Invasion routes would spontaneously reroute. Communication channels would burst into streams of mathematically impossible data. Elementary school children became an unexpected front line. Their science fair projects, repurposed into sophisticated jamming devices, caused entire alien squadrons to experience total system failures. A group of fifth graders in Nebraska managed to disable a critical alien command ship using nothing more than a modified potato battery and some clever engineering. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's quantum interference network reached its peak. The entire planet became a massive living quantum computer designed to introduce pure, beautiful chaos into any system trying to predict human behavior. Admiral Klex watched in growing horror as his meticulously planned invasion devolved into complete pandemonium. This was not a conventional military conflict. This was humanity demonstrating that their greatest strength was their ability to be absolutely, beautifully unpredictable. The invasion was no longer just a battle. It had become a global performance of resistance, with every human on the planet as a potential performer in the most spectacular show of defiance the galaxy had ever seen. The aftermath was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session, the massive holographic chamber filled with representatives from countless civilizations. At the center stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, humanity's unexpected ambassador to the stars. "We didn't just defend ourselves," she explained, her voice calm and measured. "We redefined the entire concept of resistance." The Varaxian Imperium was in complete disarray. Admiral Klex, once the most feared military leader in the known universe, had been demoted to managing interstellar parking violations, a punishment that seemed almost poetically just. Zera 9, the bureaucratic drone whose misplaced decimal point had started the entire invasion, was ironically promoted. The Galactic Administrative Concordance determined that such a spectacular series of events could only have been the result of exceptional administrative creativity. Humanity's reputation transformed overnight. They were no longer seen as a minor, potentially conquerable civilization. They became the universe's most unpredictable wild card, a species that could turn any situation into an opportunity for innovation, humor, and absolute chaos. The technological exchanges that followed were unprecedented. Other civilizations began studying human culture not as a potential threat, but as the most sophisticated form of adaptive intelligence ever encountered. Universities across the galaxy began offering courses in human adaptive systems and chaos theory, lessons from Earth. Dr. Marcus Chen found himself at the center of a new field of study. His quantum interference techniques became a fundamental area of research, with scientists from across the universe trying to understand how humanity could turn unpredictability into a strategic advantage. Area Rodriguez's global network transformed into the most sophisticated diplomatic and scientific communication platform in galactic history. What had started as an astronomy livestream became a critical interstellar communication hub. George Ramirez was offered diplomatic positions he never could have imagined. His ability to create viral content that could simultaneously entertain and communicate complex ideas made him an unexpected key to interstellar diplomacy. The Crystalline Concordance issued a formal statement that would become legendary. Humanity has demonstrated that the most powerful weapon in the universe is not technology, but the ability to transform any situation through creativity, humor, and collective will. Earth became a protected planet, not through military might, but through the sheer incomprehensibility of its potential. Other civilizations realized that attempting to categorize or conquer humans would be futile and potentially disastrous. In the Galactic Archives, the final report on the invasion was beautifully succinct. Lesson learned: always verify the planet's name before invasion, especially if that planet is called Earth. Zera 9, now a celebrated administrative legend, would later write a memoir titled How a Typo Saved Humanity, which became a bestseller across multiple star systems. As the dust settled, humanity looked to the stars with a collective smile. They had not just survived an invasion, they had fundamentally changed the way the universe understood resistance, creativity, and the power of being beautifully, wonderfully unpredictable. The galaxy would never be the same again.